I call this December 22nd, 2012 City Council work session, 9:30 a.m. to order. Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Councilman Jimmy Iyer.
Here.
Councilman Bates Madison.
Here.
Councilman Rebecca Chase Williams.
Here.
Councilman Joe Gebbia.
Here. Thank you.
Your Honor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Would all please stand for the pledge?
Oh, there's the tag. Hold it up. Hold it up.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We have a work session today. If y'all have been in a work session, it's just sort of like a council meeting, but it's just mostly presentations, and we'll have some back and forth between the council and the presenters. On the agenda, just so you know, this licensing seminar, if you're going to be here, it's going to be mainly centered around licensing of sexually oriented businesses. And just to give you a heads up, because it's something that we have to deal with as a city. It's a necessary component of what we do, and that's what we're going to try to get all opinions and all points of view on this issue so that we can make a proper decision. We've been deliberating on this for a couple weeks now, but now that we've gotten our major work out of the way with awarding contracts to 6 of our 7 vendors or public services, we can address this now. We'll probably address it next week in the city council meeting. But we want to have a fact-based discussion and presentation on that issue so that we make the right decision. Any reports and presentations? I guess we'll start now with the Governor's Commission on Brookhaven's Recreation Committee. I think Sue Binkert is here to present.
Thank you very much, Eric. We'd like to make sure that everybody had a copy of the Parks and Recreation report, and this will provide you with some of the information from today and for some easy reading hopefully later on. For today, what we're going to be able to try to do is to give you a very, very short synopsis of a process, and I'm going to sit down because I'm so close and I have a cold, so I'm trying to give everybody the cold back here. Is to provide actionable information about actionable items so that you can really help you to identify startup and critical issues that you're going to be dealing with in reference to the parks. So we're going to be talking about actionable items and objectives, quick timelines, talk about our citizens audit, and then urgent contract issues that we have. And first of all, I'd like to start off by introducing ourselves. I'm Sue Binkert, District 3.
Karen Whitehead, District 1.
Carol Carson, District 3.
Tom Riley, I'll say District 1.
And the first is Karen and Terrell. Actionable items.
Mostly this is just a synopsis of the packet that you got from us initially from the commission. I know you probably haven't had time to read through the whole thing, so we just wanted to give you some highlights. Under the actual items, critical action item number 1 to us was determining the Parks and Rec's annual budget. And the objective behind that was to assist city officials in capturing financial requirements and so forth. Second actionable item was design organization structure to position Parks and Rec as a department reporting directly to the city manager. We felt this was important due to resources and priority items could potentially be subordinated if under any other department. We feel it's very important to go directly to the city manager on that. Third actionable item was determine parks acquisition date. Take down to the parks, priority there, time frame. I know costs are involved. I know there's some other things that have to be negotiated with the county on that. But in order to avoid further deterioration and neglect, I think the better we take them down, the sooner we can get working on them. Also, the fourth one is search and hire full-time Parks and Rec director. Very, very important to us. We think the Parks director should also communicate directly with the city manager, possibly help design the master plan, come up with some information that we can take to the community to hang our hats on, and also utilize a lot of grant areas, community participation, cut labor costs, things like that.
First of all, I want to say thanks for having us here. I think it sends an important message to us and to the community regarding your priorities, and that parks are really not going to take a backseat, given the feeling of our parks as regards to the city of Brookhaven. I think it was an important decision to have us here this morning. Thank you. To continue with what Terrell was saying, we think that an early on actionable item is to be sure that there's a safety and code violation inspection in our parks. When we did our audit, we saw lots of things that we think are a liability to the city of Brookhaven, such, I won't itemize them, but such things as no mulch on the playgrounds, which is an issue. The National Recreation and Parks Association, NRPA, which is a 501c3 parks advocacy group nationwide, has codes that parks need to adhere to. And so those are the codes that I'm talking about when I say code violations. And of course it would take a knowledgeable person to do that. We are advocating and recommending the development of a Citizens Park Advisory Council. You'll read more about it on page 51 in your report. But basically it's a group appointed by you, 2 or 3 people each, who meets once a month with a parks director to just be a liaison between the citizens and the council and the parks organization for the city. It's a very effective group in the county, and I think it would work well in the city. I was on the county board, so I know how they work. We also believe that we should have an RFP initiated for our master plan sooner rather than later. We are advocating, you will see, for the appointment of or the hiring really of a parks director to report directly to the city manager rather than Public Works. And as soon as we get that parks director hired, we'd like to see the initiation of a master plan. We don't believe that we need to wait until we acquire the parks from DeKalb County later in the year, because the work can begin so that when we achieve the acquisition, we can start with the master plan right away rather than, or the implementation of the master plan rather than starting working on the master plan. So those are things that we think are important. If you go to the we'll go to the timeline, which is right in the beginning of the report that you have too. I'll just quickly run through it. We had recommended in December that you approve the budget, the timeline, and the reporting structure, which again, it's being said for the 3rd or 4th time, a standalone to the city manager rather than Public Works like Dunwoody has it, both for the perception of the citizens and for what we think would be the effectiveness of that job.
Give a little more thorough explanation as to why you think it should. What do you see in Dunwoody that might be an issue, and why do you prefer to have it?
It's not anything that I see in Dunwoody. It's a perception of the importance to you all and to the citizens of what that job is.
The status of what
the status, exactly. You've said yourself that parks are what partly drove the city of Brookhaven, and now we want to keep that importance and not have a bait and switch here.
Is there anything in the charter that we can separate? You can do it any way you want to, Mark.
Are you proposing a parks director as part of the vendor contract, or
we would love to see that person be an employee rather than a vendor, reporting directly to the city manager. That's our recommendation. For all the reasons stated.
Either option, we do want to have a Parks and Rec director. So either
Whether it's a vendor, report,
or
Parks and Rec
employee,
reporting to the city manager, or a
to make sure that we
standalone.
have that position.
Oh yeah.
in the city.
well, if it's a vendor, it's obviously going to report, as the other are, to the city manager.
Right. That would be automatic if it's a vendor. And we obviously would have, and you would have some, if we did go with a vendor, city park and recs director, be all kinds of input as to who that would be. You have some control when you do hire a vendor. We want this person or this person. That's something we can negotiate.
And even if it means a vendor now and an employee later.
Sure.
But,
right.
okay. So then we're saying, okay, you start looking for somebody in February. That's the timeline that we would like to see. That person, perhaps starting April 1st, or thereabouts, May 1st, then that's when we initiate the RFP for the master plan, for reasons that I stated, rather than waiting until we get the parks later in the year. We're saying that we'd like to see you negotiate with DeKalb County to acquire the parks around the 1st of September. And at that time, we would be ready to award the RFP for the master plan so that implementation can begin along with the new parks director being in place. We want to have our own ribbon cutting ceremony first of September. And the implementation of the master plan for April 1st of next year. And that's, you know, we talked to the citizens, and that's already a year and 4 months after the beginning of the new city, and they're going to be chomping to get going. So,
when you say implement the master plan, what do you
I
suggest?
mean, we take 6 months to develop a master plan, and so the work begins. Whatever other priorities in the master plan, whether it's starting playgrounds or acquiring more parkland, working on the master plan for the existing parks. The master plan is like an architectural drawing of what the parks.
I understand master plan, but
Okay.
I guess my idea, I was asking more what sort of commitment are you looking for or expecting from the city when you use the word implementing the master plan?
I would expect the parks organization and the council to approve money to begin the master plan work, whatever the master plan is calling for in the various stages for those to begin.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, this timeline you have is not unreasonable, I'll say that. And,
Thank you.
And just a couple things I want to address. We have been talking about a master plan before we buy the parks. That's
Right.
that's obviously a pretty big deal.
Oh, good.
And springtime for sitting on an RFP, that seems like it might be feasible. Yeah, so we've talked to the finance, and so that's something we want to do. We want Parks Committee involvement with it. I mean, we don't want the Parks Committee looking over the shoulder of the person who's doing the master plan, but we want input and meetings with them to kind of express the desires of the citizens, because you are correct, and there's not going to be any bait and switch when it comes to, you know, one of the reasons people wanted to incorporate, a major reason was parks, obviously. And police kind of is a big one too.
Well, that needs to come first, obviously.
Right. And then we have, you know, before, but the only thing about the Park and Recs director, whether we go with an employee or a vendor, hadn't been decided yet, and really had any discussion about that. The first thing we have to have in place before you hire a Parks and Rec director or a vendor is a city manager. So the search for the Parks and Rec director really, I mean, I guess we could start before we have a city manager, but really that needs to be under the purview of the city manager, because they're going to be reporting to the city manager. If that's the way I think that's probably the best way to do it, what y'all suggested. And another thing we need to be working on while we get the master plan going is the bond money for the parks. We had a presentation from an attorney yesterday, or 2 days ago, about the bond money. There are some things where we've directed to be done to find information on what was promised during the bond referendum before it, and getting that information is going to be difficult from DeKalb County. Bill, if you want to comment on that a little bit in that section.
Yes, sir. We did a presentation a couple of days ago about the position that the county took. The county took the position that while they did place a number of publications out alleging where they were going to spend the money amongst the parks, because in the official documents they did not tie it down, if they take the position they don't have to do that. There's currently litigation going on through Dunwoody, as probably all of you know, and in our office is leading that litigation also. But prospectively, what we will be doing is we will be because we understand you have some of the data of some of those publications as well. We'll continue to try to collect publications from the public who may have saved those kinds of things and have the opportunity to find those. We'll file a Freedom of Information Act with the county, but if it occurs as the last one did, you get about this much. They'll allege they have nothing, but we know that there's more than that. So the first thing to do is to gather all the information that's there of what they promised, and at the point in time that we have the parks, we'll have a reasonable basis to go into court to see about getting that money.
With the Dunwoody, and I know you can't talk about the timeline, 6 months, a year, 2 years, when do you think that'll be resolved, and will there be some precedent established, formulas, whatever, for where and how that money's coming from?
Let me answer it like this, please, Councilmember.
I understand.
We represent them. I'm obviously not involved in theirs because my other partner is the lead over there. I really wouldn't want to speculate on their case. We will benefit from their lead.
Okay.
In terms of going forward. If there's a resolution in that case, it should present a resolution for us.
Okay.
How long has their case been going on?
It's probably been about a year.
This is just some of the information that we were able to gather, and there's Chad Bowles, who
Thank
has
you.
been taking the lead on the committee. He unfortunately is not able to be here today.
We'll
So his
contact him.
contact,
Thank you
this
so
information
much.
is there. So
Is this in reference to the bond meeting?
in reference to the bond money, yes.
Thank you.
I have a document that's a couple of years old. It's either regarding the bond money or the bond interest money, in which there were some commitments. I will send it to you.
Anything you have, any independent research you want to do on, what was the bond, was it 2004? 2006? Any independent research y'all want to do with statements made by elected officials in the county prior to the 2006 bond referendum, or just around after, right after, that'll be helpful too. That's evidence of what we were signed up for when we passed the bond.
Bill, when we make our inquiries into information, does that automatically include any bond interest money?
Make sure it does.
Well, because I know that you periodically see that the CAD Board of Commissioners appropriating some money from bond interest money. So there's another little pot of money out there too that accrues to the money not spent. I can just tell you my experience as a reporter trying to get information when I was reporting on the city of Brookhaven issues. I made an open records request too for how has the money been spent, what's the accounting to date, and nobody was able to give me an answer on it. So I wish you luck.
Thank you.
One thing, this is sort of for Bill, but I want Karen to hear as well. If we're buying the parks in the fall sometime, October, November, one thing I want to kind of know, I got a call from Mayor Bodker in Johns Creek, and they were talking about the Sandy Creek shooting, and about their police, people wanting their police to go to the schools, the city police to go to the schools to kind of patrol. He said that when you want your officers to go into a school in the county, you have to be invited, unless it's a 911 call, which is an invitation. You have to be invited to come in. You can't just send your city police into a county school. Is that the same issue with parks? If we don't have our parks yet, can our police department not patrol the parks? I think that would be different because there are roads in the. But
Be on the roads.
So,
You can be on the roads. Yeah. It's a similar situation because in the county, well, first of all, that situation isn't going to come up for a little while. We'll have an IGA and it'll still be county police.
right.
But you are correct that at some point in time we may just add that to the IGA,
Right.
place that in the form of an IGA to ensure that there's no question about us going to parks. I wouldn't think there would be a question about it. The schools have their own school system police, and the schools have a body politic that really do not want to share power, and they really are very cozy about what they'll let you do and what they won't.
Because that's an issue we obviously know. Before we buy the parks, I think to establish a regular police presence in our parks is important to me. I know it's important because we have some things going on in some of our parks that are not too good. So I'd like to address that issue. That, when we stand up our police department this summer, I want to know if they can start patrolling our parks immediately before we buy them. There's that.
Mr. Mayor, what do you think is the time frame on us approving the RFP that's before us right now, the bid on Parks and Rec?
I think, a master plan should be done before we approve an RFP. I don't have an idea on that.
No, I think they're independent. I think we can, you're probably looking at January and February in my mind, for the parks.
RFP?
No, the bringing out a park vendor. But the RFP process, I would think you would not have your park vendor on before the RFP.
Right.
Minimal stuff, but they would be involved in that process. The master plan would be something that we would issue, for instance, Jacobs or Collaborative or one of the other planning vendors that we have. Talk to them about doing the master plan. I think it needs to be more than just parks. I think it needs to include opportunities for green space and other things. I think we need to look citywide at how all these things fit together and what other opportunities we have. Not that we can, maybe pursue them, but at least identify them at this point and see how they fit into the overall scheme of things.
When you get ready to put out bids for a master plan, I would hope that we could be involved in that, because we've been involved with other, for example, Chastain's, the vendor that did their master plan. There are people that do that and are experts.
Well, I would hope that we would have Parks Committee appointed before the master plan.
Okay.
Maybe before we select a vendor for parks. So we know the Parks Committee is probably the most active committee that's been with KVNS and with the Governor's Commission. It's a very active committee, very well populated.
And deeply experienced.
And a lot of experience and a lot of real concern and knowledge of our parks. So it's something we want to utilize your talents. And so feel free to make any suggestions anytime, utilize. And at one point we'll have to have a division of authority, but we want to be a city that is citizen driven, and we want our employees and vendors and people who are doing master plans to take their lead from not only council but the citizens, of course.
I think the challenge is going to be people want to see some immediate improvement in the parks, and you'll need to help us explain to the public that we need to go slowly so we can really get everything in place.
We will. If we understand what's happening, it's easy to do that.
Yes. So you'll partner with us in that.
Exactly.
Just keep us in the loop.
Yeah.
That's what this is about.
I believe a lot of this timeline is going to be driven by money, budgeting. So if y'all can figure out a way to get DeKalb County to cut checks for this parks bond money, things could happen a lot faster. But once we get a better handle as a council on the budget, I think we'll be able to realistically put dates on some of these things and develop a strategy, because we have to have the money to be able to pay for this stuff.
I've got one little task for the Parks Committee. It's a small, minor task. I was at a football game at Market County Park this past fall, and a child was injured on the field. So he had hurt his knee. Couldn't walk, and he was a pretty big kid. And I was sitting in the stands watching one of the heads of the league there going through a key ring that must have had 150 keys on it, trying to find a key to the lock on the gate so they could get the kid out, so they wouldn't have to push him over the fence to get him in the parent's car. I just started thinking, why can't we have 2 or 3 keys for the entire city for the parks? I think all the locks and all the doors, for safety reasons, the police need to have a key to. There's a lot of doors at Murphy Candler, Ashford Park, Briarwood, Linwood, all the places. Is it feasible to have a small set of keys for all the parks in the city? I just think.
To do some research with the other cities and see what has been there.
It is, but there's a cost involved.
Well, we have to change all the locks.
Yeah, I mean, as a
Yeah,
landlord,
we
like
got
the way
that on
it
our
is,
timeline.
Yeah, that's gonna be a budget item. We have to
Yeah.
change, I think changing all the locks is
We
necessary.
have that on our
It's in the budget.
timeline.
Oh, do you? Okay,
The
so
day
maybe
you
an
buy
estimate
the
what,
parks.
an estimate on what that might cost, and if the feasibility and if there's something I don't know as to why you need different keys for all the parks and all the locks, but all the, padlocks that you have on a lot of the gates and fences and parks, there's no reason not to have the same key, I think.
Well, that's because you have so many entities right now.
Right.
That are in charge of things. I have a key to one at Murphy Candler. Why do I have a key? Because they gave me one.
Right.
Because you're important.
Right.
No.
But for safety reasons, I think, you shouldn't have to be fumbling through a bunch of keys to get a child off the field.
Exactly.
So not just the doors, but padlocks and other kinds of locks. Yes.
I'm Brett Walker, the park director for Dunwoody, and I have one key for Dunwoody.
Okay.
It's great.
All right.
Oh,
Yeah, so it is
good.
feasible.
It's very feasible. We also have electronic key card locks in some of our facilities.
Okay.
That's the master key card.
Okay.
So you can create a system where you have a master key for everything, and then break it down individual cores and assign keys just for those.
Why would you need to have different keys for different grouping? What's the logic behind that?
Well, I have facility keys that are specific just to that facility, like the nature center.
Right.
So they don't have keys to the Squirrel Center that work there. They have keys that just work for the nature center. But this key will work on all the
So our police could have a master key,
that work.
and directors of each league can have a master key.
Yeah, you can break it down to one lock or one key, or just, we have a contracted locksmith that I'll sit down with and create a key system. So
What
we
was
have
it
a
cost? I know we have a lot more parts than y'all do. What is the rough cost on that?
With install, I think it was around $8,000. That was all the padlocks, all the recoring. DeKalb County uses the best lock key system, which has interchangeable cores.
Oh, okay.
So when we switched out the locks in Dunwoody, I contacted their facilities person, and he met me with their core key, and because the cores are expensive,
All right.
he removed their cores as our locksmith was putting ours in. And so I have a core key also that matches this one, where I can change cores out in the lock system if need be, and then he gives me additional cores too. So if something happens, I don't have to call locksmith every time, I can switch out the cores.
Are you an employee or a vendor employee?
I'm a vendor employee.
Okay. Anything you've heard today, you have any comment on it?
Keys. I don't know how much liberty I'm able to speak